All right guys, Automatic Garage back today. We got a 2017 Explorer with the 3.5, not the EcoBoost, but the regular 3.5 naturally aspirated in it. This has been on the channel before. We did the internal water pump on this before. We had a cylinder misfire at the same time that we changed the coil pack and a plug on then. And I think we replaced the AC compressor because with the internal water pump, it had been running water all on top of the clutch, and I had messed up the electronic portion of that. But anyways, it's back today for a misfire. So let me show you what we got here. So we got a P0302, which is a cylinder 2 misfire. You can feel it. It's not terrible. It kind of comes and goes. It smooths out at higher RPMs. You feel it mainly at the lower RPM range. But this is not the simple ones that are right here on the front of the motor. Right here, these are no-brainers. Just 8 millimeters. Unplug it, take your coil pack off, swap the plug out. I usually always change a plug with a coil pack. Kill two birds with one stone. You never know when you may have a problem with one of the two. So plugs are cheap. But cylinder 2 is in the center back here underneath this intake. So you might look at this job just like this customer did and said, man, I really don't want to get into doing that intake and taking that off. It's not hard. There's nothing complex about it. So I'm going to walk you through doing this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call him and see and actually encourage him to go on. Let's do all 3 coil packs. Let's do all 3 plugs on the back side here since they're harder to get to. If you don't want to do these, that's fine. They're easy to access. But let's go on and do all the ones on the back side for sure. But anyways, let me get into showing you what we're taking off here. All right, so you got 3 electrical connectors to undo. Back left here, right here on your purge valve for your evap. You got your throttle body here. Get those out of the way. You have a line to disconnect, where I put it right here, from your purge valve also. You can see the clip, just pop it off this direction, and then it slides right off. These lines will be able to stay. We're just gonna take this one and pop it out of its holder. That's all we have to do with that one. Once you get to that point, you can take your air intake loose here. We're gonna take the whole air intake here off. You gotta undo this PCV hose here. And you have another hose to disconnect there on the back of the intake. I believe that's it, unless I'm missing something. So let me get the rest of this stuff all totally out of the way, get those hoses undone, and we'll start unbolting this upper intake. So, forgot to tell you about this one here. Just disconnect it from your air intake. Slide this hose off also. Then, you can take your whole air intake out and get it out of your way. All right, so now we're gonna start taking all of our 8 millimeter bolts out of the intake. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got one underneath here, 6, 7. So the last bolt you have to get out after you take your front bolts out is right there. You see that bracket that my socket is on coming from right here. Take that loose, then we can raise the whole entire intake out. So that's a 6-inch extension with an 8 millimeter deep and a 1/4 to 3/8 adapter on there. So I'm gonna back that bolt out. Try to grab a hold of it with a magnet so I don't drop it. And we'll pull this intake out then. And there you go. And leave all your bolts in it. They're actually captive anyways. That one's not, but all the others are actually captive and will stay in the intake. All right, before you proceed any further, what you want to do is stick something in these intake holes, because what you do not want to do is drop something down in here and create a very bad day for yourself, especially if you drop it in a cylinder with an open intake valve. You'll find out how much fun it is to deal with that. So now, you got these little locking tabs. I'll show you on one of these front ones right here. Slide it up like that is right there. And you push and pull just like that. So we're gonna get all of these off. All right, we talked with the customer and I said, hey, while the intake's off, I'd just go on and do all 3 of these on the back. So we're just gonna change all the plugs, change all the coil packs on the back, and be done with this. So now I take your 8s that hold your coil packs in. Just take your coil pack, you can slide them up We know this one is bad for sure, or that's our problem cylinder at least. So we're gonna set it over to the side. All right, so before you go to pulling any of these plugs out of here, it's a good practice to take you some compressed air and blow any junk out of each bore so you don't drop anything down in your cylinders. All right, so we got a 5/8 deep 3/8 socket on a 6-inch extension. That gets you right down there onto your spark plug. So we're gonna break them all loose. All right, so we just put our new spark plugs in, platinum Fords right there, torque to 128 inch-pounds. We're gonna put our coil packs in next, tighten the 8mm down. There is a torque spec for that. I usually don't ever worry about the torque spec. I'm just gonna snug them up nice and snug, plug them back in, and then we can get to the point of putting our intake back on, which, where's it at? Gary's already installed our new Felpro gasket on the bottom of the intake here. I just like to, it is reusable, but it's been on there for this car has 100-something thousand miles on it. I figured it needs to be replaced while we have it off, so you make sure we don't have an air leak there. All right, intake going on. Just make sure your gasket stays in place while you're putting it on. We got our coil packs all plugged in and our 8mm all tightened down. So we're all ready to go on here. We're gonna get all these bolts started first in this section loosely, and then we're gonna get that bolt on that bracket that we talked about earlier started back. All right, intake is on. These are just loosely snugged up. Bolt is loosely tightened in the bracket back there. Now, here's your torque sequence. If you can see all that, there's the numbering right there. So, sequence 1, you take them all to 89 inch-pounds in that sequence order. On step 2, you go on bolts 1 and 3 through 7, you turn them an additional 45 degrees, and bolt 2, you turn an additional 90 degrees. So that's your torque for your intake here, or your upper intake plenum. All right, intake is all torqued down. There is no torque spec for the one in the back there on the bracket. Just tighten it up. So now we're gonna plug all of our electrical connectors back in, our purge valve, our CCV vent stuff, all that stuff back in. We're gonna clear the codes that are stored in the computer, and we'll crank this thing up. We should be good to go. All we got left to do is an oil change on it after that. We cleared our codes. Let's crank this thing up. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video on doing these coil packs and spark plugs on this little 3.5 Explorer. Just a quick video to show you that you can do this yourself, save you some money, and change them coil packs on the back. Don't sweat removing the upper intake, nothing hard about it. So go check out our other content on the channel here. Got a whole lot of Power Stroke, Cummins, diesel, Ford content on here all together. Check us out at Facebook and Instagram, automedicgarage.com. Got some merch on there. If this channel's helped you out, or you just like supporting content like we have here on the channel, go consider visiting our Patreon and becoming a member of that. We do some giveaways and got some behind the scenes stuff that happens here in the shop. That's not necessarily our normal content here on the channel. So we appreciate y'all watching. This is Auto Medic Garage signing out. We'll holler at y'all later.